The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. 847 different species sat in their assigned seats, waiting for the most important meeting of the year to begin. The air shimmered with translation fields, allowing creatures from across the galaxy to understand each other. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in the human section, his blue uniform neat and simple compared to the elaborate costumes worn by other species. He watched as Council Speaker Vexithera rose from the center platform. The ancient crystalline being had overseen galactic peace for over 1,000 years, and her voice carried the weight of experience. "We gather today to discuss the state of our galaxy," Vexithera announced. Her words echoed through the vast chamber. "As always, we must address the ongoing concerns about military expansion and territorial disputes." Morrison knew what was coming. Every year, the same topic arose. Every year, the other species looked nervously at the small human section. It had been this way for nearly a century, ever since humanity had first made contact with the galactic community. "The human doctrine remains in effect," Vexithera continued. "All species are reminded that human space is to be respected and left undisturbed. This policy has maintained peace for generations." A low rumble came from the hegemony section. General Zarkoth, a massive reptilian creature with scales like black metal, rose to his feet. His yellow eyes burned with anger as he stared across the chamber. "This is ridiculous," Zarkoth's voice boomed through the hall. "We are told to fear a species that controls barely 50 star systems. The hegemony has conquered 47 systems in the past decade alone. Why should we bow to these humans?" Dr. Lisa Grant, sitting next to Morrison, leaned forward. As humanity's chief diplomat and xenobiologist, she had spent years trying to maintain peaceful relations. "General Zarkoth, perhaps you would like to review the historical records before making such statements." "Historical records?" Zarkoth laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "You mean the stories? The legends that make humans sound like demons from the void?" Morrison remained quiet, but his jaw tightened. He remembered those battles. He had been there for some of them. Vexithera's form flickered with concern. "General, the events I am about to describe are not legends. They are documented facts witnessed by multiple species." The speaker's voice took on a formal tone as she began reciting the records. "The Sol Defense War, year 2298. 3 combined fleets of the Tellurian Empire, numbering over 600 ships, attempted to claim Earth's solar system. Human forces numbered 87 vessels. The result? Complete Tellurian defeat with 96% casualties. Human losses, 12 ships." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Species that had never heard these details shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "The Asteroid Belt Campaign, year 2315, Vexithera continued. "Korthek raiders attacked human mining operations expecting easy prey. The human miners converted their industrial equipment into weapons and destroyed a fleet of 200 raiders using mining ships and construction robots." Zarkoth's scales bristled. "Primitive tactics against weak opponents." "The Ghost Fleet Incident, year 2341. The speaker's voice grew quieter, more serious. "A single human destroyer, the USS Defiance, disabled an entire Zelak armada of 300 ships. The human vessel used unconventional tactics, turning the enemy fleet's own systems against them. The Defiance suffered no casualties. The Zelak fleet was found drifting in space, completely helpless but unharmed." The chamber fell silent. Even Zarkoth seemed taken aback by this last account. Dr. Grant stood up slowly. "General Zarkoth, you asked about human military capabilities. Let me explain something about human psychology. We do not enjoy war, we do not seek conquest, but when threatened, we become something that terrifies the rest of the galaxy. Humans think differently than other species," she continued. "Where you see a mining ship, we see a potential weapon. Where you see industrial equipment, we see the components of a defense system. Where you see empty space, we see a battlefield. With 1,000 possible strategies." Morrison finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. "General, the human doctrine exists for everyone's protection, not just ours." Zarkoth's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening the hegemony? No, Morrison replied. I am explaining why threats are unnecessary. Human space remains peaceful because we ensure it remains peaceful. The galaxy prospers because humanity focuses its energy on exploration and trade rather than conquest. But what happens, Dr. Grant added softly, when someone forces us to focus that energy on war? The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Several species exchanged worried glances. The older civilizations, those who had witnessed human capabilities firsthand, remained silent. Zarkoth stood to his full impressive height. The hegemony has conquered species with technology far more advanced than yours. We have defeated fleets 10 times the size of your entire navy. We will not be intimidated by bedtime stories and ancient history. General, Vexithara warned, I strongly advise against any action targeting human space. The consequences will be minimal, Zarkoth interrupted. The hegemony will test these human legends. We will claim the human colony of New Eden as proof that this feared reputation is nothing but smoke and mirrors. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Representatives from dozens of species began speaking at once, many trying to dissuade the hegemony general from his course of action. Morrison stood up slowly, his movement somehow more threatening than all of Zarkoth's posturing. The chamber gradually fell quiet as the human admiral reached for his communication device. General, Morrison said, his voice carrying clearly through the silence, you have been warned by 846 different species. They have all told you the same thing. Do not attack human space. And if we do? Zarkoth challenged. Morrison's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Then you will learn why they gave you that warning. The Admiral activated his communicator and spoke a single, quiet sentence that chilled every being in the chamber. Code. Black. Hegemony inbound to New Eden. Recommend implementation Omega. As the council session dissolved into chaos, with species representatives desperately trying to contact their governments and arrange emergency diplomatic interventions, Morrison gathered his papers and prepared to leave. Dr. Grant caught his arm. Jake, are you sure about this? Once we respond, there's no going back. Morrison looked at her with sad, tired eyes. Lisa, we've maintained peace for a century by making sure nobody ever had to see what humans are truly capable of. Now, someone has chosen to find out. He walked toward the exit, leaving behind a chamber full of terrified aliens who suddenly understood that they were about to witness something that would change the galaxy forever. The warning had been given. It had been ignored. Now the galaxy would remember why humanity was feared. The fall of New Eden reached Earth within minutes of the colony's final transmission. In the depths of Luna Base, hidden beneath the moon's surface, Fleet Admiral Kate Williams received the news in the War Council chamber. The massive room filled with holographic displays showing star maps, fleet positions, and intelligence reports from across the galaxy. General Pete Martinez, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, stood beside Williams as they watched the final moments of New Eden's resistance. The images were heartbreaking but not unexpected. Every human colony knew this day might come. Every colonist accepted the risk when they chose to live on the frontier. 2.3 million people, Director Amy Chen said quietly as she entered the chamber. The head of human intelligence had been tracking the hegemony fleet since it left their space. They held for 7 days against impossible odds. They bought us time, Williams replied, her voice steady despite the grief in her eyes. And they showed the galaxy exactly what we're capable of when we're not trying to hide it. Dr. Paul Jackson, head of Human Defense Research, activated the main display. What appeared was a map of human space that bore no resemblance to what the galaxy believed existed. Hidden shipyards dotted the outer systems. Weapon platforms disguised as asteroids filled the space between worlds. Defensive networks connected every human colony in an invisible web of protection. For a century, we've maintained the illusion that we're a small, peaceful species, Jackson explained to the gathering officers. Every battle the galaxy has witnessed was us holding back. Every defensive action was carefully controlled to avoid revealing our true capabilities. Williams nodded to Chen, who began her intelligence briefing. For decades, our traders, explorers, and diplomats have been mapping every major civilization in the galaxy. We know the location of every hegemony military base, every supply depot, every command center. We know their tactical doctrines, their weapon specifications, and their command structure. The display changed to show detailed schematics of hegemony ships and installations. The information was so complete that it included the personal habits of individual commanders and the shift schedules of maintenance crews. How? Martinez asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Because we're human, Chen replied. We prepare for everything. Every human who leaves our space carries instructions to observe, learn, and report. Every trade mission includes intelligence gathering. Every diplomatic contact is an opportunity to understand potential threats. Dr. Jackson activated another display, this one showing weapons and technology that had never been seen outside human space. Adaptive artificial intelligence systems that learn from enemy tactics in real time. Quantum communication networks that cannot be intercepted or jammed. Stellar manipulation technology that can turn a star into a weapon. And that's just the experimental stuff, Williams added grimly. Our standard fleet capabilities are 50 years ahead of anything the galaxy has seen. President Linda Hayes entered the chamber, her face grave but determined. As Earth's elected leader, she had the final authority for military action. But everyone in the room knew what her decision would be. Admiral Williams, the president said formally, the hegemony has attacked human civilians without provocation. They have ignored diplomatic warnings from every major species in the galaxy. What are your recommendations? Williams stood at attention. Madam President, I recommend immediate implementation of Protocol Omega, full fleet deployment across all theaters, complete neutralization of hegemony military capabilities. Understood, Hayes replied. But Admiral, I want to be clear about our objectives. We are not seeking conquest or revenge. We are ensuring that no species ever makes this mistake again. The room fell silent as everyone understood the implications. Humanity was about to reveal its true nature to the galaxy. The careful balance of power that had maintained peace for a century was about to be shattered. Williams activated the fleet communication system. Across human space, hidden bases received their orders. Ships that had remained concealed for decades began emerging from asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres. Commanders who had spent years pretending to be traders and explorers activated their true identities. The response was immediate and overwhelming. From the Outer Rim territories came the Ghost Fleet, ships equipped with stealth technology that made them invisible to conventional sensors. From the industrial worlds came the Heavy Fleet, massive vessels designed for ship-to-ship combat. From Earth itself came the Command Fleet, carrying the most advanced technology humanity had ever developed. But the most terrifying revelation was the scale. The galaxy believed humanity controlled perhaps 200 warships. The true number was over 10,000, with support vessels and automated defense platforms bringing the total to nearly 50,000 combat units. Martinez reviewed the deployment orders with growing amazement. Kate, this is larger than the combined fleets of the top 10 galactic civilizations. How did we build all this without anyone noticing? Simple, Williams replied. We built it slowly, carefully, and in places where no one thought to look. Every asteroid mining operation included military shipyard components. Every trade vessel was designed with hidden weapon systems. Every colony established secondary functions as military bases. Dr. Jackson brought up another display showing the true scope of human territory. The galaxy thinks we control 50 star systems. The actual number is closer to 500 with outposts and observation stations in over 1,000 systems. Chen added her own revelation. And we're not alone. 17 species have signed secret mutual defense pacts with humanity. They've been providing intelligence and support for decades in exchange for protection from aggressive neighbors. President Hayes absorbed this information with the calm demeanor that had made her a successful leader. So the galaxy has been living under human protection without knowing it? Exactly, Williams confirmed. Every time a potential conflict arose, human intelligence identified it early. Human diplomats worked behind the scenes to resolve disputes. When necessary, human operatives took direct action to prevent wars. But now that's over, Hayes stated. After today, everyone will know what humanity is capable of. Williams nodded. The age of hiding in the shadows is finished. The hegemony forced our hand. Now we respond with overwhelming force to ensure this never happens again. The first reports began coming in from human fleets across the galaxy. Ships that had been disguised as merchants for decades revealed their true nature. Space stations that appeared to be research facilities activated, hidden weapon systems. Human agents embedded in neutral governments began coordinating support for the coming campaign. The artificial intelligence system known as Athena came online, coordinating fleet movements with precision that defied belief. Every ship, every weapon, every tactical decision was calculated for maximum effect with minimal collateral damage. "Admiral," the president said finally, "show the galaxy who we really are. But remember, we are not conquerors. We are protectors. When this is over, the galaxy should be safer, not more dangerous." Williams saluted. "Understood, Madam President." The hegemony chose to test human resolve. They're about to learn that some tests have permanent consequences. As human fleets began moving toward hegemony space, Admiral Morrison sent a final message to the Galactic Council. "You warned them. They chose not to listen. Stand aside." The awakening had begun. Humanity's core true power was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The human response began with surgical precision across 17 hegemony systems simultaneously. Captain Sam Rodriguez commanded the stealth destroyer USS Retribution as it materialized seemingly from empty space above the hegemony's primary military shipyard at Korvac Prime. Around him, his crew worked with the calm efficiency that came from decades of preparation for this exact moment. "Target acquisition complete," reported Lieutenant Commander Janet Mills from the weapons station. "All primary objectives identified and locked." Rodriguez studied the tactical display. Below them lay the most heavily defended installation in hegemony space, protected by orbital defense platforms, patrol fleets, and enough firepower to destroy a small moon. 6 months ago, this would have been considered an impossible target. Today, it was just the first stop on humanity's list. "Athena, status report," Rodriguez said to the ship's artificial intelligence. The AI's voice filled the bridge with calm authority. "All 17 simultaneous operations are proceeding on schedule, Captain. Enemy response patterns match predicted models with 97% accuracy. Initiating Phase 1. The USS Retribution fired its first salvo, but these weren't conventional weapons. Instead of destroying the shipyard's defenses, the human weapons disabled them, turning the hegemony's own systems against their creators. Shield generators reversed polarity, causing them to trap enemy ships instead of protecting them. Communication arrays began broadcasting human messages instead of hegemony commands. Rodriguez watched with satisfaction as the massive shipyard's defenses crumbled without a single explosion. "Take us to the next target and signal the fleet. The yard is ours." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human forces revealed capabilities that shocked even their enemies. Commander Helen Davis led special operations teams that infiltrated hegemony worlds, not to destroy infrastructure, but to broadcast messages directly to civilian populations. On the industrial world of this 7th, Davis and her team materialized in the planet's primary communication center. The hegemony guards never saw them coming. Advanced human stealth technology making the operatives effectively invisible. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Sergeant Kevin Brown as he interfaced with the alien communication systems. "Every citizen on this world is about to hear the truth about their government's decision." Davis activated her translator and began speaking to the planet's 2 billion inhabitants. "Citizens of Thys 7, this is Commander Helen Davis of the Human Defense Force. Your government has attacked peaceful human civilians without provocation. We are not here to harm you. We are here to remove the leadership that put you all in danger." The message was simple, but devastating. For the first time, ordinary hegemony citizens learned that their military had ignored galactic warnings and attacked a species that the entire galaxy feared. The reaction was immediate and widespread. On hegemony worlds across their territory, civilian populations began demanding explanations from their leaders. Why had they attacked humanity when every other species advised against it? Why had they been told nothing about the galaxy's warnings? Why were their fleets being destroyed by an enemy they had been told was weak? General Zarkoth commanding, the hegemony's response from his fortress world of Draxus Major, watched his empire crumble with growing desperation. His tactical displays showed impossible things. Human fleets appearing and disappearing at will, hegemony ships being captured intact rather than destroyed, and worst of all, his own people questioning his leadership. How are they doing this? Zarkoth demanded of his intelligence chief. Our sensors can't track their ships. Our weapons can't target them. They seem to know our every move before we make it. Colonel Thexamar, a veteran of 40 campaigns, shook his reptilian head in confusion. General, it's as if they've been studying us for decades. They know our procedures, our tactics, even our personal command styles. They're not just defeating us, they're predicting us. What the hegemony leadership didn't understand was that they were correct. Human intelligence had been watching them for over 50 years. Every military exercise, every tactical manual, every command decision had been observed and analyzed. The artificial intelligence Athena had built psychological profiles of every hegemony commander, predicting their responses with terrifying accuracy. The human strategy wasn't just military. It was psychological warfare on a scale never before seen. Human forces didn't simply defeat enemy fleets. They captured them intact, turning hegemony ships into human weapons. They didn't destroy planets. They liberated them, broadcasting the truth about hegemony expansion to civilian populations. Captain Rodriguez found himself commanding not just the USS Retribution, but a growing fleet of captured hegemony vessels. Human crews trained in xenotech operations took control of enemy ships within hours of capture. The hegemony's own technology was turned against them with devastating effect. Sir, reported Ensign Carol Wright from the communications station, we're receiving surrender requests from the Korvac Defense Fleet. They're asking for terms. Rodriguez exchanged glances with his executive officer. Tell them the terms are simple. Complete surrender of all military assets, cooperation with human forces, and protection for their crews. Anyone who surrenders will be treated according to galactic law. And if they refuse? Wright asked. Then they'll face the same fate as those who chose to fight, Rodriguez replied grimly. The hegemony's attempts at escalation only made things worse. When General Zarkoth ordered attacks on human civilian targets, human response was swift and devastating. Entire hegemony fleets simply vanished, their ships disabled, and crews captured before they could threaten a single human world. When the hegemony tried to use their own civilians as shields, human forces demonstrated surgical precision that defied belief. Military targets were neutralized while civilian areas remained completely untouched. Human troops would materialize in the middle of military bases, secure their objectives, and vanish again without harming a single non-combatant. The most devastating human tactic was information warfare. Human intelligence revealed decades of hegemony war crimes, corruption, and abuse to the galactic community. Species that had been conquered by the hegemony learned the truth about their occupation. Neutral governments discovered evidence of hegemony espionage and sabotage. Commander Davis coordinated these information releases from her mobile command center. The beauty of the truth, she told her team, is that it doesn't need to be exaggerated. Just broadcast the facts about what the hegemony has done, and let the galaxy decide. The results were immediate. Hegemony allies began withdrawing support. Internal rebellions started on conquered worlds. The hegemony empire, built on fear and military dominance, began to collapse from within as its own people learned what their government had truly been doing. General Zarkoth made increasingly desperate attempts to salvage the situation. He tried to negotiate, offering territorial concessions and reparations. Human forces ignored him. He attempted to surrender, promising to step down from power. Human forces continued their advance. He even tried to escape to neutral space only to find that human agents had been waiting for him. The artificial intelligence Athena coordinated every aspect of the campaign with precision that bordered on the supernatural. Human forces seemed to be everywhere at once, striking targets across hundreds of systems with perfect timing. Hegemony commanders found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn, their strategies countered before they could even implement them. As human fleets reached the outskirts of the hegemony homeworld, the scope of humanity's true power became clear to the galaxy. This wasn't just a military campaign, it was a demonstration. Humanity was showing every species what happened when their warnings were ignored. Admiral Morrison, now leading humanity's diplomatic efforts, arrived at the Galactic Council with a message that chilled every representative present. This ends when they surrender unconditionally. Any species that interferes will be treated as co-conspirators. The hunt was nearly over. The hegemony empire, which had seemed so powerful just weeks before, was now a broken collection of rebellious worlds and defeated fleets. And throughout it all, human forces had shown restraint, precision, and overwhelming superiority. The galaxy watched in terrified fascination as humanity prepared for the final phase of their campaign. The hegemony homeworld lay before them, defended by the last remnants of what had once been the galaxy's second-largest military force. The test was almost complete. Soon, everyone would understand why the galaxy had warned them never to cross humanity. The siege of the hegemony homeworld lasted exactly 6 hours. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching as the last of the hegemony's home fleet surrendered. Around the planet hung 1,000 human ships, their presence a silent testament to humanity's true power. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. General Zarkoth's surrender came not through military defeat, but through the complete collapse of his authority. His own people, learning the truth about their government's actions, had demanded his removal from power. The planet's civilian leadership contacted the human fleet directly, begging for mercy and promising cooperation. Morrison activated the communication system to address the hegemony homeworld. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Human Defense Force. The hegemony empire has surrendered unconditionally. All military forces will be disarmed and disbanded. All civilian populations will be protected under human oversight until stable governments can be established." The terms of surrender shocked the galaxy not for their harshness but for their restraint. Humanity demanded no territory, no tribute, no resources. Instead, they required something far more valuable: guarantees that this would never happen again. President Linda Hayes addressed the Galactic Council from Earth, her words broadcast to every civilized world in the galaxy. Behind her stood representatives from the 17 species that had secretly allied with humanity, their presence revealing the true scope of human influence. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Hayes began, "humanity never wanted this war. We spent a century building a reputation for peace through strength, hoping that reputation alone would prevent exactly this kind of conflict. The hegemony chose to test our resolve. They have learned at great cost why the galaxy warned them against such action." The president paused, allowing her words to be translated and absorbed by billions of listeners. "But this war has revealed something that can no longer remain hidden. For decades, humanity has been working quietly to maintain galactic peace. Every major conflict that was avoided, every diplomatic solution that seemed miraculous, every deterrent to aggressive expansion, humanity played a role." Hayes activated a display showing the network of human intelligence operations, defensive pacts, and covert interventions that had shaped galactic politics for generations. Species representatives gasped as they realized how many wars had been prevented by human action behind the scenes. "We are not conquerors," the president continued. "We are protectors. But after this demonstration of our capabilities, we can no longer protect from the shadows. Therefore, humanity officially accepts the role of guardian of galactic peace." Admiral Morrison returned to the council chambers where his career had begun decades earlier. Council Speaker Vex Ithara still occupied the central platform, but the chamber's atmosphere had changed dramatically. Where once species had debated policy as equals, now they looked to humanity for guidance and protection. The hegemony empire is dissolved, Morrison announced to the assembled representatives. Its member species have been granted independence under human protection. War crimes tribunals will be established to judge those responsible for aggressive actions, and new laws will be enacted to prevent future expansionist campaigns. Ambassador Talarvan of the Christek Confederation raised a crystalline appendage. Admiral Morrison, what assurance do we have that humanity will not abuse this position of power? What prevents you from becoming the very threat you claim to protect us from? Morrison nodded, having expected this question. A valid concern. Ambassador, allow me to show you why humanity is uniquely suited for this role. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing human colonies throughout the galaxy. Every human world we have established has become more prosperous and peaceful than before our arrival. Every species we have allied with has benefited from the relationship. Every conflict we have prevented has saved countless lives. But more importantly, Morrison continued, humanity's greatest strength is not our military capability, it's our perspective. We are one of the youngest species in the galaxy. We remember what it was like to be weak, to be threatened, to face extinction. We protect others because we understand what it means to need protection. Captain Ellen Brooks, representing the new generation of human officers, stood to address the council. I was born after the human doctrine was established. I grew up believing that peace was the natural state of the galaxy, but recent events have shown me that peace requires constant vigilance and occasional action. The galaxy has a choice. Brooks continued. You can accept human protection and continue to prosper under our guidance. Or you can reject it and face the consequences when the next aggressive empire decides to test galactic resolve. General Zarkoth, now a prisoner awaiting trial, was brought before the council to answer for his actions. The once proud military leader looked broken and defeated as he faced the representatives of species he had planned to conquer. General, Morrison said formally, you claimed that humanity's reputation was built on legends and fears. You tested that reputation. What is your assessment now? Zarkoth's voice was barely above a whisper. I was wrong. We were all wrong. Humanity is not like other species. You do not conquer, you convert. You do not destroy, you protect. You are not driven by greed or glory, but by something far more dangerous. Genuine concern for others. The general looked up at Morrison, with something like respect in his eyes. You could have destroyed my empire in days rather than weeks. You could have killed millions instead of capturing thousands. You could have taken our worlds for yourselves instead of liberating them for their people. This restraint is more terrifying than any weapon. Council Speaker Vexithera officially recognized humanity's new role in galactic affairs. The Galactic Council formally acknowledges humanity as the guardian of peace. This position carries both authority and responsibility. You have the right to intervene in conflicts that threaten galactic stability. You also have the obligation to protect all species equally, regardless of their size or power. Admiral Morrison accepted the role with the same quiet dignity he had shown throughout his career. Humanity understands the burden we are accepting. We do not take this responsibility lightly. Our goal is not to rule the galaxy, but to ensure that every species can pursue their own path without fear of conquest or oppression. The ceremony concluded with the establishment of new galactic laws. The human doctrine was expanded and formalized, becoming the foundation for interstellar relations. Aggressive expansion was banned. Military buildup beyond defensive needs was prohibited. And any species contemplating hostile action would face not just diplomatic protests, but active human intervention. As the council session ended and representatives returned to their worlds, Morrison found himself alone in his quarters, aboard the flagship. On his desk lay photographs of New Eden's colonists, the people whose sacrifice had made this new era possible. Their deaths had not been in vain, but the cost still weighed heavily on his heart. Captain Brooks entered the room carrying reports from across the former hegemony territory. Admiral, the transition is proceeding smoothly. Former hegemony worlds are establishing democratic governments. Refugee resettlement is ahead of schedule, and galactic trade has actually increased since the war ended. Morrison nodded, but his expression remained somber. Ellen, do you understand what we've done? We've made ourselves responsible for the safety and well-being of every species in the galaxy. That's a burden that will pass to your generation and beyond. Brooke sat down across from the Admiral. Sir, with respect, we were already carrying that burden. We just weren't getting credit for it. At least now everyone knows who to thank when peace is maintained and who to blame if we fail. The young captain was right, Morrison realized. Humanity had been protecting the galaxy for decades. The only difference now was that they were doing it openly instead of secretly. A communication alert interrupted his thoughts. Reports were coming in from across human space. New colonies being established, trade agreements being signed, and former enemies requesting to join the human sphere of protection. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The warning that began this story had become galactic. Law never cross humanity. But now there was a corollary that offered hope to every peaceful species. But if you need protection, humanity will provide it. Morrison looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, human ships were patrolling trade routes. Human diplomats were preventing conflicts, and human forces were ensuring that what happened to New Eden would never happen to any peaceful world again. The test was complete. Humanity had proven its strength and demonstrated its character. The galaxy was safer, more prosperous, and more peaceful than it had been in centuries. And at the heart of it all was a simple truth that every species now understood. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their tactics, but their unwavering commitment to protecting those who could not protect themselves. The new order had begun, and it would last for generations to come.